5G danger. 13 reasons 5G wireless technology will be a catastrophe for humanity. The 5G danger can't be overstated. 5G, fifth generation, is now being actively rolled out in many cities around the world. Simultaneously, as awareness over its horrific health and privacy impacts is rising, many places are issuing moratoriums on it or banning it, such as the entire nation of Belgium, the city of Vaud, Switzerland, and San Francisco, USA. Radio frequency radiation, RF or RFR, and electromagnetic fields, EMF, are being increasingly recognized as new types of pollution, environmental pollution. Here are 13 reasons exposing the 5G danger, which could turn into an unmitigated health and privacy catastrophe if enough people don't rise up to stop it. 1. 5G danger. Hijacking your sweat duct antennae. The 5G network uses and broadcasts frequencies which affect our sweat ducts, which act as antennae. In other words, our largest organ, the skin, can be influenced or manipulated by 5G. The 5G frequencies will zap us with wavelengths that will interact with the geometrical structure of our skin. We found that sweat ducts work like helical antennas. The sweat duct was an integral part of the mechanism for the absorption of energy, electromagnetic, between 75 to 100 GHz, and that if you change the character of the sweat duct that is made it work, you could actually change that absorption at some point, and if you could do that you could trace how a person is under stress. 5G danger. 5G amplifies EMF damage via VGCC's wireless radiation, and EMF scientist Dr. Martin Pall has done groundbreaking research in explaining exactly how EMFs cause premature aging and injury to the human body, including damage to fertility, brains, hearts and even DNA. He pioneered research showing how EMFs activate the body's VGCCs, voltage-gated calcium channels, which causes them to release excess calcium ions into the cell. This then leads to nitric oxide, NO, and superoxide, which react nearly instantaneously to form pyroxenitrite and free radicals. Many studies show pyroxenitrite damages DNA. 5G promotes the EMF penetration. The main reason why cell or mobile phones are more dangerous for children than adults, apart from the fact that radiation absorption is cumulative over a lifetime, is due to EMF penetration. The industry has also made claims that more conventional microwave frequency EMFs are limited in effect to the outer 1 centimeter of the body. We know that is not true, however, because of the effects up in the human brain, on the heart and on hormone systems. 5G is a weapons system disguised as a consumer convenience. Mark Steele has been very outspoken against 5G and has now been widely interviewed, including by Project Camelot and also by Sacha Stone in his documentary 5G Apocalypse, The Extinction Event. Steele claims that although widespread reports state that 5G is operating in the 24 to 100 GHz range, it is actually sub-gigahertz, meaning under the GHz threshold, so still measured in MHz. He says 5G is a weapons system like long-range radar, phased array radar and directed energy. G was used in 9/11 and various fires like the Paradise Fires. He claims that when you examine 5G hardware, it has a dielectric lens, which is proof it is a weapons system. Autonomous vehicles can use 5G to shine in mirrors of other drivers, which is so strong and damaging it is equivalent to assault. Mark talks about how 5G is powerful enough to kill babies in wombs. He states, 5G is a weapons system, nothing more, nothing less. It's got nothing to do with telecommunications for humans. 5G is a machine-to-machine connection for autonomous vehicles. LA firefighters develop ailments after being too close to towers. In this video, a 25-year veteran firefighter from Los Angeles compares cell towers to cigarettes. He calls for a stop to the cell, mobile phone base stations being built on or near fire stations. Firefighters are not the only ones suffering the effects. It was reported that hundreds of birds fell from the sky in the Netherlands during a 5G test. Same frequencies as used for crowd dispersal. These are the exact same frequencies used by the military for their non-lethal weapons such as active denial systems for crowd dispersal. These weapons have the capacity to cause tremendous injury. Mutagenic, causing DNA damage, and carcinogenic, causing cancer. The mmW frequencies of 5G cause mitochondrial DNA damage, which is then passed down generations. 5G is mutagenic. These mutations are inherited by the next generation. This has grave implications for genetic purity. How many people are thinking about this when they can't stop looking at their screens? This website lists many studies showing the mitochondrial damage that occurs after exposure to EMF radiation. With mutagenesis usually comes carcinogenesis. In other words, once something is powerful and dangerous enough to cause DNA damage, chances are high it will lead to cancer. Mark Steele says 5G is a Class 1 carcinogen, although the WHO, World Health Organization, very conservatively classifies cell phone towers as a Class 2B possible carcinogen. It's important to note, however, that the WHO is an agency of the UN which was set up by the Rockefellers, an illustrious NWO Illuminati family who plan to use the UN as a vehicle to usher in a one-world government. 5G is being rushed out without the proper safety testing done, so we don't have much data on how 5G specifically causes cancer, but there is an abundance of evidence showing how 2G, 3G and 4G EMFs are implicated in many kinds of cancer, including brain cancer. This website has a good collection of the many studies done. 9. 5G danger. Phased array densification. 5G requires significantly more transmitters or broadcasters than earlier generations. It is a plan of massive infrastructure creation, with stations, towers and bases planned to be put almost everywhere, including in the heart of residential neighborhoods. The effects of this kind of densification could be disastrous. 5G is powerful enough to 3D map the inside of your home and other buildings. Mark Steele specifically highlights the 868 MHz frequency, previously used for battlefield interrogations and which can travel with these through bricks and concrete. He claims this frequency can single out specific people. Interesting given all the electronic harassment and gang stalking which occurs against these targeted individuals. 5G infrastructure will consist of small phased array antennas shooting out radiation at their targets like a bullet. The rays of microwaves they produce will be strong enough to pass through walls and human bodies. We will be blanketed with this 24/7/365, and what's worse, the coverage area is slated to be broader than the current 4G, eventually encompassing every square inch of Earth. Killing all the insects. Insects, birds and children are the most vulnerable to 5G due to their body size. Claire Edwards is a former UN staff editor who brought the EMF/5G issue to their attention of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. She stated in an anti-5G rally speech in Stockholm, "It's interesting to note that in the last 20 years we have lost 80% of our insects. And if we get 5G, we're going to lose 100% of our insects. When the insects go, we go too. Both insects and 5G need antennas. Insects use them, among other things, in their sense of smell, while 5G uses them to propagate waves. Not surprisingly, insects are sensitive to 5G EMF waves. This recent study showed that insects exposed to 5G radiation experienced an increase in their body temperature. Studies have shown that the frequencies used by 5G increase the body temperature of insects. This phenomenon was not observed with 4G or Wi-Fi. Meanwhile, the study exposure of insects to radio frequency electromagnetic fields from 2 to 120 GHz concludes, future wavelengths of the electromagnetic fields used for the wireless telecommunication systems will decrease and become comparable to the body size of insects, and therefore, the absorption of RF EMFs in insects is expected to increase. Space-based 5G is planned to be an inescapable grid, with plans afoot to beam it down from space. This ties into the space fence agenda as I discussed in my article Space Fence, Connecting the Surveillance and Transhumanist Agendas. The organization International Appeal Stop 5G on Earth and in Space writes, At least 5 companies are proposing to provide 5G from space from a combined 20,000 satellites in low and medium Earth orbit that will blanket the Earth with powerful, focused, steerable beams. Each satellite will emit millimeter waves with an effective radiated power of up to 5 million watts from thousands of antennas arranged in a phased array. It is vital to understand the bigger picture of the grand conspiracy here. All these disruptive and hazardous technologies, 5G, Wi-Fi, wireless radiation, HAARP, ionospheric heating, geoengineering, GMOs, etc., are going to be woven into one giant integrated system of surveillance, command and control. Just as one small example, geoengineering involves the spraying of chemtrails loaded with metal particulates, which 5G can use. 12. 5G danger. Re-radiation inside the body. Way back in 2002, RF researcher Arthur Firstenberg published an analysis of 5G long before the technology was approved. He explained how, due to 5G impulses being extremely short and delivered in bursts, they actually replicate inside the body, and end up creating tiny new 5G antennas internally. When extremely short electromagnetic pulses enter the body, something else happens. The moving charges themselves become little antennas that re-radiate the electromagnetic field and send it deeper into the body. These re-radiated waves are called Brillouin precursors. They become significant when either the power or the phase of the wave changes rapidly enough. This means that the reassurance we are being given that these millimeter waves are too short to penetrate far into the body, is not true. This echoes a previous point made, that 5G penetration is a serious danger. 13. 5G danger. Insurance companies refuse to underwrite big wireless. What do they know? Insurance companies, the most famous of which is Lloyd's of London, have made headlines by refusing to insure big wireless, the telecommunication corporate conglomerate, against Wi-Fi and 5G-related illnesses and claims. Conclusion: 5G grid part of larger command, control, surveillance and artificial intelligence, agenda. 5G is qualitatively and quantitatively different to 4G. It is much more than just the next step up from 4G. 5G will not only beam tens to hundreds times more radiation than 4G, but the introduction of mmW technology means a whole new host of hazards. History repeats itself. Just like it took some time for real science to catch up with tobacco, cigarettes, and just like it took some time for real science to catch up with the monstrosity that are GMOs, now rebranded as bioengineered foods, so too will real science catch up with 5G. In the meantime, you can expect all sorts of junk science to be put forth to justify it, including misdirections and distractions like only focusing on the thermal effects of wireless, and ignoring the evidence of dangerous non-thermal effects. Ultimately, 5G is part of the NWO agenda to set up a giant, inescapable command and control grid that eliminates all